Good morning and welcome to Pilgrim Lutheran Church and School's virtual Sunday school. Today is the second Sunday of Easter. That's right. Easter isn't just one day, it's a whole season, 5 weeks long, where we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. And we experience this entire renewal that happens, just like spring takes several weeks before those little buds of flowers start to bloom nice and big. So today's reading is from John 20, and we have a guest reader.
Hello. Slam went the door, click went the lock. No one coming in, no one going out. 10 of Jesus' disciples hiding in a house. One of them wasn't there, Thomas. The disciples were afraid. Jesus died on a cross. Would they be killed too? Suddenly, Jesus appeared in the locked room with them. Peace be with you, said Jesus. The disciples stared. Their mouths dropped open. Could it really be Jesus? Jesus smiled. He showed him his hands. They saw holes from the nails. Jesus, it's you. So the disciples shouted. Whoosh! Jesus breathed his spirit on them. Go tell everyone I'm alive. Take my spirit with you. 10 disciples were ready to tell, but one disciple, Thomas, wasn't in the house that day. He didn't see or hear Jesus. When the disciples saw Thomas, they shouted, Jesus is alive. What? Wondered Thomas. I wouldn't believe it until I see Jesus and touched his hands with my fingers. 1 week later, all of Jesus' disciples were back in the house, even Thomas. Suddenly, Jesus appeared again. Peace be with you, he said. Thomas, touched my hands, believe. Thomas answered, my Lord and my God. Jesus blesses everyone who has not seen him, but still believes.
Thank you, Catherine. So when we hear that reading, last year we talked a little bit about how the disciples were inside of the house, no one going in or out because they were afraid. And it's funny how when you hear something at a different time, it can land differently and you hear something different. So this year, there's two different things that I hear when I hear this reading. One is, what was that sound that we heard in the reading? Whoosh, right? Whoosh. The Spirit, Jesus gave the Spirit into the disciples and said, take my Spirit with you. And so Jesus is how many people? It's one, right? And the disciples, there were 10, and then later in the reading, there were 11, who all had the Spirit in them and went forward telling Jesus' story and the good news of his resurrection. So what's better at spreading news? One or 10 or 11, or now we've got millions of people who tell this great story, right? So when we have that Spirit in us, we can spread the good news a lot faster. And what's the second thing? What is it that Jesus said to the disciples? Peace be with you, he said. So I find that really interesting. He showed them the holes on his hand from the nails. He went through some suffering and some hard times there. I mean, he died on the cross, but he says, peace be with you. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about renewal, because Jesus died on the cross for what? To forgive us. And after he went through all of that, he's saying to the disciples, peace be with you. And so that is something that we can count on now, right? That we can have peace. We can go through some tough times, but we make our way through. And when we have that forgiveness, we can be at peace in our hearts and in our minds. And it makes it a lot easier to go forward and to spread that good news when we have peace in our hearts. It becomes really hard to spread that good news when we have fear and anger and hurt in our hearts. And so renewal is all about starting fresh and letting those things out of our hearts and minds and putting back in that peace so that we can take the Spirit and Jesus's good word and spread it out to everybody. And so think about that this week and think about that renewal. Renewal can happen daily, it can even happen hourly. It can happen as often as you need it to. So always remember Jesus's words, peace be with you. And remember the big sacrifice that he made for us in order for us to have that peace and to be able to put that into our hearts and to take the good news forward. So thank you for joining today. Have a great week, and I'll see you again next week.